Unhide. We should be live.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Bob Mursock. This is Eli Lofel, and welcome to today's Evolve Fireside Chat. We have a special guest today from Barco. It's Harry Patel. Hey, Harry.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Eli. Good to see you guys.
Hey, Harry. So I've told him you're with Barco. Can you give us an introduction? Introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, your title at Barco, and just basically what goes on with your world.
Sure. My name is Harry Patel. I am the product manager for the upcoming platform Encore 3. I'm based on the East Coast, and while the product is developed all around the world, I'm able to work remotely, managing the development of the product, also working with many of our customers to listen to their feedback, and then hopefully bring in a very exciting platform to the market. Again, we have announced it at ISE, and we look forward to ship. So Harry Patel, product manager for Encore 3.
Great. Thanks for taking the time too, Harry. It's I know you're a very busy man and taking the time out of your schedule to do this. First question we have for you, just an easy one. So, what's the concept behind the Encore 3 and its design?
Yeah, so with E2, we are seeing quite a lot of shows using multiple units because a single unit sometimes doesn't have enough canvas or sometimes doesn't have enough 4K outputs or inputs. So as we went into deciding what we should do for the next platform, one of the key problems we wanted to solve was 4K support, right? So, and then the other part of it was also being able to use the platform in a bit much more easier way than it is with Master today, right? E2, when it was built in 2014. 2024 is where we are now, and the tech we are using to build Encore 3 is also from 2024, and hence there's quite a lot of improvement that is done in the platforms, right? So in 2014, when E2 was designed, resources that were there were sort of enough to do the show, but not enough to really take all the manual controls away, right? So our intention with Encore 3 is to solve two things. One is, again, make it a system that's a 4K native, remove all the capacities, remove all the pre-assignments, and along with that, offer a stronger user experience that allow you to operate the system in a very easy and a simple manner, not only for those who are familiar with the Master platforms, but also for those who are new to Master platform. So overall, with Encore 3, those are the two things that we want to solve, and hopefully customers are able to relate to that.
Great. So we're on Event Master 9.2 in the E2, and I understand there's an Event Master 10 for the Encore 3. Why two different platforms? But it's the same. It's called the same thing, but two different platforms. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, well, so Event Master is a very well-known brand of image processing that's offered from Barco. We wanted to continue with that brand, a sub-brand, and the tool set, Event Master tool set, also was very well known in the industry. People know what it is. We wanted to continue to keep that name familiar, but there is the demarcation where we have to branch out some of the products that are supported by version 9.2, and then what's coming next new as version 10, right? So Event Master 9.2 is going to support E2, S3, PDS 4K, IP 4K, EX, and so on, all the current products that we support. And then when we go into Encore 3 as a next generation, next gen platform, version 10 is going to be that demark. Between the two, even though name is very similar, version 10 is pretty much built ground up. It's built on, again, latest UI technologies that are available to us, and at the same time, we wanted to minimize our testing efforts, right? So anytime any software releases that we offer, it has to be rigorously tested with every single product it works with, right? So with version 10 and also going forward, we want to bring the software updates to you much faster, much quicker. And hence, we wanted to reduce our testing effort and testing time it takes, which instead, I would rather put that on development and bringing you new features, right? So we decided to make version 10 as a demarcation, which supports the next gen platform, but then 9.2 will still continue to exist. So on a let's say a single show, on a single laptop, you could have 9.2 and version 10 both running at the same time connected to real hardware independently, or let's say if you're working in a simulator environment, then 9.2 will work on its own simulator, and version 10 will work on its own simulator. The only caveat is that both simulators cannot be run together, right? So one or the other. But if you're running in a real show environment, both applications will work together. And again, continuation of Event Master will be offered in this approach.
Okay. Along those same lines, just real quickly, will the E2 continue to receive updates, or are all your efforts going to the Encore 3?
Well, great question, Bob. With the current Event Master products, or the E2 second gen products, we have come to a point where it has pretty much all the features it needs, right? But we still aim to keep E2 as a product alive in the lineup for next 2 to 3 years, right? It is still a very solid HD workhorse for HD shows and more inputs and more outputs and so on. It also does some of the unique things that Encore 3 will eventually do in the future, but doesn't do it today, like stereoscopic, for example, or higher frame rate. So in the sense, E2 is going to be there for next 2 to 3 years, and hence the toolset 9.2 will continue to be there. If there are any updates, any features that we think that are necessary to add to the product, we will continue to do so. But as you can imagine, we do have limited resources on development side, and the focus is keen to be a success for our customers as well as for Barco as a company, and hence we will be putting up quite a lot more effort on Encore 3 or any upcoming future development that happens on Encore 3, right? So you will see more updates coming on the next gen than off the current gen.
Gotcha. So when will training begin on 10.0?
So we announced the platform at ISE. We intend to showcase the platform again at Infocom. We intend to also take orders for Encore 3 at Infocom. So right after Infocom, Barco will be rolling out a more or less a roadshow where there will be a training class available for those who want to take Encore 3 certified specialist courses. There's 2 different types of courses that we are working on. One that is a condensed version, and one that's a full 3-day version. There's different prerequisites that are also associated with it, and different costs to attend it as well. More details to come from Barco, but I would expect that sometime in summer, I would ask each and every one of our operators to carve out some time to take the Encore 3 certified specialist course from not only from Barco, but also from our partners who are offering the course externally as well. So stay tuned. More information is coming, and likely the timeline is going to be around or after Infocom. So anywhere from June till September is the time frame.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned ISE, and at ISE, AED and Lang both had an Encore 3. We don't know if it was a working version or what, but they had the box. When do you expect to hit the U.S. soil?
Very soon, as we are. I mean, it's already on the U.S. soil because it's developed more or less in the U.S. But you mean outside of Barco? It would be very soon. So very first time we will be able to demonstrate it at a public location would be at Infocom in Las Vegas. That's coming up in June. And then after that, it's going to be part of the roadshow as well, where we will be showcasing and also providing training on the Encore 3s.
And you can come here and show it off here anytime.
Oh, absolutely. Would love to.
Anytime you want. So Harry, will the current controllers that work with the E2, will they work with the Encore 3?
Yes. Well, so controllers and cards, both are the Gen 2 cards are going to be forward supported with Encore 3. So first on the controllers, the EC30, EC50, EC210 are going to be supported with Encore 3. The 210 comes as part of the second release because 210 has an OS that's built in. So we have to spend time to update the OS, also make it a dual boot so you can load your 9.2 or your version 10. So that takes a little bit of an effort from our side, and hence that's going to be in a second release, while the EC30 and the EC50 is going to be there on the first, from day one. On the cards, the Gen 2 cards, there is 6 cards, 3 on the input side, 3 on the output, right? So there are the HDMI, DisplayPort, and the Tri-Combo Gen 2 cards on in and out are going to be forward supported. And not only forward supported, but it's going to be double the 4K IO. Each card will support 4 times 4K in or 4 times 4K out on the Gen 2 cards. So reusing, or in other words, maximizing the investments that you already have, customers already have made, is something that we wanted to protect as well with Encore 3, and we will continue to do so.
Harry, so I think you've got a standard configuration. We just showed a couple of slides of the box, and I think that's a standard configuration. To correct me if I'm wrong, but you can also do build to orders. Do you expect high demand for build to orders, or do you expect more of the standard configuration to roll out the door most of the time?
Well, with E2, we offer both. Yeah, we offer the standard configuration and also build to order. The difference between the two is really lead time, right? So if you need a system in a short amount of time, and historically speaking, majority of our rental partners typically order a standard config, while build to order is ordered by Pro AV installs, right? So which one am I going to expect more? I think standard config is going to be more or less the case where we're going to have most of the orders coming in. And one unique thing about the standard config is that it also has the link card included in the standard config, right? So with the standard config, you get the system faster. You also get the link card. And then should you decide that you don't need the link card and you want to use the one box is enough for your show, and you need more inputs or more outputs, remove that link card and put in the card that you already have, right? Or choose the type of a card that you already own and pop it into that system, and off you go with your show. So to answer your question, Bob, I think it's going to be the standard config that we're going to receive the most of the orders, but Barco is not going away from build to order. We will continue to offer that as well.
Okay, so the standard config for a single box is basically a 1608, right?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, right? So you have 7 slots on the back of the chassis. The first slot is the dual use, right? So the dual use slot it could be used with the link card or with an input. Then slot 2 and 3 are your input only, and then the last 4 are your flex slots. And the flex slots can host either a Gen 2 input card or a Gen 2 output card. So depending on your card config, a standard config, you are correct, it's 16 by 8. But as a customization to it, you could offer it to be a 20 by 8 or 24 and 4, or however you like it. Up to total, you can have up to 6 Gen 2 cards as an input. You need to have at least 1 out, or up to 4 output cards in a chassis.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good explanation of it. But it's so every output is 4K. It starts as 4K, right?
Yeah. Every input, every layer.
Can you talk about the layers and the outputs and everything? Just give us, because there are people out there that are watching, I'm sure, that don't know what the E3 is capable of. And I just wanted to hear it from you.
Totally. So every input, every layer, every output is 4K native, right? E2 was HD native, 4K ready. Encore 3 is a 4K native system. Whether you use the 4K capabilities of it or not, you have it, right? So by doing that, we have now eliminated the capacities that you would need to have. You would need to typically worry about on the cards. You also don't have to worry about now capacities on the layer, right? Every single layer inside the system is a 4K native system, 4K native layer. Each screen destination that you create will have pre-assigned a mixing background, which is no longer native. We'll touch on that maybe at a later time, but a mixing background, a movable mixing background, and 8 mixing layers mixing layers can be split into two singles. So let's say a single screen destination could have a mixing background and 16 single layers in one preset. And on our next preset recall, you could go back to mixing, right? So complete flexibility on layers, and you have 8 4K 60 equivalent worth of outputs, right? So it's a very solid 4K native system, which you don't really need to worry about now capacity anymore. You have plenty of layers inside the box. Every single input output is 4K native. So really, when you go design a show now, at the end of the day, it's about inputs and outputs, right? Because inside the box, you have all the resources you need. I am sure there are few of us that are joined today. They will maximize the capability of a single box very easily. But point is, we have done everything possible to make the system 4K native and giving you all the resources upfront as pre-assigned.
Right. So we have. I want to talk about projection a little bit, because I mean, all the big canvases are really geared towards doing LED walls where you need really high pixel canvases and everything else. But let's talk about projection, because as a rental house, we have over 80 4K projectors. However, the vast majority of people are using them in 1080p. They don't use the 4K projectors. Are you giving any thought to like on the output side, maybe taking a 4K output and bringing it down to 4 2Ks, and then being able to blend that, and then maybe on the input side have more connectors than say a tri-combo card, like maybe 8 SDI inputs or something like that? Have you? I mean, is there any thought to that end?
Well, I mean, again, as I mentioned, it's a 4K native system, right? So a 4K native system will pretty much eat up the bandwidth or throughput, so to say, from input to output. If you use it in HD or not, can we maximize that for 4 HDs potentially down the road? But the way we have planned the system, it's something that you may not even need to worry about it, because of the flex slots that you have, because of the and again, flex slots is something to explore further, right? Which is, if with Gen 2 cards, it's in or out. Again, we have those 4 flex slots on the right hand side. It's either input or output. But as we go towards the future, and as we work on newer technology, newer cards, that could be expanded to have input and output at the same time. The link card that we talked about, each link card can receive up to 16 4K 60 in and 16 4K 60 out at the same time. And that potentially could be expanded with an EX like box to give you more inputs and outputs, right? So overall concept of the Encore 3 was to make the system easier to use, easier to spec, and hence 4K native was the answer to it. So are we, is there possibility of getting more HDs from a 4K? Not from day one. From day one, it's going to be a 4K native system.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. I mean, you can't have everything at day one, right? But on that note, can you give us a glimpse into the future, what the Gen 3 cards are going to look like? What are you expecting to? I mean, what's on the drawing board for Gen 3 cards?
Well, so we have the Gen 2 cards today. We are reusing them to give you double the 4K inputs and outputs, right? So 4 times 4K per card. And as we go into the future, again, for those flex slots, we want to maximize the inputs and outputs available on a single chassis. There's also AV or IP technology that's coming into our industry. And there is very, very solid use cases. There's very, very solid value prop that the technology comes with as well. So as we go towards the future, we are going to look into developing AV or IP cards, right? With AV or IP, there's 2 types of customers in our eye, right? So there is, let's say there's a golden line. Above the golden line, there are customers who need AV or IP technology to do their shows, because without it, simply they cannot do the shows, because they need to be decentralized, they need to be scalable, flexible. And for those larger shows, typically they also have budgets. to manage that AV over IP network, and hence there's resources there to take care of the complicated steps that might be there. And then there's people below the line who have heard of sort of AV over IP, but never really explored to understand the complexity that it may bring, and they're simply just curious. But all the shows that they're doing, they can still do it over baseband with the proposed solutions that's already out in the market, right? So Barco is looking to solve problems for both types of customers that we cater to. Those who need AV over IP to do their shows, and those who are curious, they want to learn more about it, expand as they grow. So as we go in the future, what you're going to see from Barco is a solution that caters to not only baseband IO, but AV over IP, and also both. Pretty much, as I said, it will. We are looking at multiple solutions that offer on both end of the spectrum.
All right, makes sense to me. Just so the viewers out there don't know why Eli's sitting here quietly, but Eli's fielding questions that are coming in online, and he's got one to ask right now. So I'm going to shut up.
Yes. Let's see here. How do I make this thing work? You had talked about, Harry, about the EX, right? And linking units together. One of our pictures here is for linking, right? Clement among a few others are asking, how many E3 units can we expect to link together out the gate, and then maybe some amount of information on how that might look going down in the future.
Yeah. So linking is an interesting a topic for Encore 3, right? So from legacy standpoint, the term linking is to expand inputs, outputs, canvases, right? Being able to drive larger resolution displays with more than one box. So for Encore 3, from day one, we are going to be able to offer 2-unit linking, with pretty much being able to share anything and everything that's between the two boxes. It will act like a single system, right? But as we go towards in the future, yes, the traditional linking can be expanded to beyond two boxes, but we have bigger plans in mind. And what we are working on is going to go beyond traditional linking. And I assure you, it's not going to be a limit that you have to worry about as we go into the future.
Sounds like he's trying to tease us here.
I like Harry. There's a lot of obviously this box, right? Encore 3 it's very future forward, right? You're aiming at not just technologies that you have now, like baseband, but all this IP based stuff, and then beyond, of course, right? So I really do appreciate that this box is like, it's 4K native. We don't have the ability to, you don't have the ability to break it down into smaller chunks, because you don't need that, right? We're starting at 4K. We're going to go beyond that as we move forward.
Yeah, and I mean, let's also look at history of Barco, right? So E2 was originally launched in 2014, and with 9.2, we unlocked so many more features that gave you more layers. And with Encore 3, we have a full 10-year roadmap ahead of us that we are working on, right? So we are simply just getting started with the first release.
Excellent.
I think you were talking about things that can't necessarily do from day one. I'm gonna go through a couple of things here. You tell me if it'll be day one or if it'll be a little bit after that.
Sure.
How about applying a LUT to a specific canvas?
That's going to be a second or third release.
Okay. And what's the maximum frame rate coming out of the gate, and what do you expect it to go up to?
Yeah, so coming out of the gate, it'll be a 60 frame system, all again at a 4K resolution. As we go into the future, the system is capable of going beyond. How far we want to push it, we don't even know the true limits of how far the system can go. Because truly, right now, our focus is to get the system to at least 60 4K resolution, and then eventually, of course, at minimum, we want to do stereoscopic, so you will have to do 120 frames. Can it go beyond? Potentially, but as we go work on it, then we will really know. But we have planned the system so that it can go beyond 120 hertz in the future. But what is the upper limit? Don't know at the moment.
Are you going to have full color correction on all ins and outs?
Yes, we plan to do so, but not in the first release.
Okay.
Actually, to be clear, color correction is going to be there, from first release. 3D LUT kind of applications is something not there in the first release, right?
Right,
So
and that's
we-
why I asked them as two different questions, because they're two different things. So
sure.
I figured color correction would probably be there because the E2 does good color correction right now. So I figured it would be there.
That will be there on the day one, but enhancing of that would be at a later point.
Gotcha. Dante Audio.
Yeah, the single chassis has Dante already built in. It's not going to be activated in the first release. It's going to be activated in the second release. I mean, to be clear with the Dante, we are not simply taking a Dante chip and putting into our hardware. We actually have taken their software cores, and putting into our hardware. That way we don't have to rely on any supply chain related bottlenecks that might be there, right? So since we are developing more or less our own Dante technology into the box, it's taken us a little bit longer to get it out to market, and hence it's going to be available in the second release. So Dante hardware is there. There is no licensing that you have to worry about. In second release, it will be simply unlocked, and you will have access to it.
Okay. So is there not dedicated Dante ports on the box? I'm gonna throw the picture.
Oh,
back
there is.
again.
There
Okay,
is,
there is.
and
Yep.
it's already built in. It's just not working in the first release. In the
Got
second release, it will be activated.
Excellent. And along the audio, lines, we've got a viewer here, Radford. They're asking if audio embedding or de-embedding would be available at the card level at some point, or if that's on the roadmap.
Absolutely. It's so entirety of the box for audio is going to be in the second release, and what audio? What users have asked for when it comes to audio is to be able to take an audio from an input, put it on Dante, take the audio from Dante, put it on an output, right? Simple embed, de-embed, pass through. So we will be doing just that. We will not be doing any corrections, no control. There will be an audio monitor in the Multiviewer where you can see that something is coming, but that's about it, right? So audio coming in second release will have embed to Dante to embed out in the output again, and then also from physical input to physical output, there will be a path to embed the audio as well, or pass through the audio as well.
I got a question directly from our LED gurus. They'd like to know, will it convert 8-bit color to 10-bit color?
Well, Encore 3 natively works in a much bigger color space than what's coming on the input. So every single input, it gets converted to a higher processing space, and then it gets converted out on whatever the settings that are put there. So yes, it will.
Okay. Will it work natively in Rec 2020?
Yes.
From the get-go?
Not from the get-go.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Okay. Do you have another one, or can I ask one more?
Let me ask a couple. We got a couple card specific questions. Obviously, like cards are, a hot topic. Cards are huge, in the E2 system, and being able to carry those cards over into Encore 3 is like, it's the closest thing I can compare it to. Harry, is like when you have a line of projectors, right? You have them for a long time. Then you move to the next line, but the manufacturer maintains the same lenses. Like, it's the most amazing thing, right? It saves the company so much money. So being able to have access to all those Gen 2 cards at, a higher capacity, right? For 4K is huge. Now, say we have a tri-combo card, an in or an out. Are we going to be limited to 4K channels, or would we be able to get up to the full 6 on the card? Or is that a card limitation at that point?
It's actually the Encore 3 chassis slot is capable of 4x 4K in or 4x 4K out, right, in the flex slot. So even though the TCO in total has 6 connectors, you'll be able to bring in 4K in right now. But TCO also has different use case. TCO has different formats that it can work with, right? So if it's, let's say, quad SDI that you're trying to bring in, well, you're going to bring up each of those 4 SDI connectors anyway, and then you are limited to 3 4K. So overall, on the upper limit is 4K or 4 things, or 4 inputs or 4 outputs. Even though it has 6 connectors, you'll be able to utilize it for 4 things.
Excellent. And that was from Julian.
I've got something along that same
All right.
line. Multiviewer, we haven't talked about that.
Yeah.
So if you were running you had a tri-combo card, and you were using all four of the SDI outputs, and they were all running at 12G, could you still use either that display port or the HDMI as a multiviewer output?
Um, Sorry to disappoint you, Bob, but no. On the back plane, you have four things coming in and out.
Yeah.
Whether they're program outputs, aux outputs, or multi-viewers. I mean, multi-viewers are a bit different in Encore 3 and compared to E2, right? Multi-viewers are generated inside the chassis. Each chassis has two 4K 60 multi-viewers, and that can be used as a source to anything. It could go on a layer, it can go on an output or an aux. Pretty much what you want to bring out of the chassis, you'll be able to bring out four things on a single slot.
Okay. Which do you had another one?
Well, we'll throw it out there because it's been asked a couple times. For example, Gabe is asking again, back to the cards, the time frame. I'm sure this is a yes, but any time frame or thoughts on DP 2.1 and HDMI 2.1?
Well, again, they're on the roadmap, but
Yep.
as we go towards the future, we believe that AV over IP technology is going to be a higher priority for many of our customers. It's going to bring more value and streamline some of the productions as well. So even though we want to release cards of all types, we have to prioritize. And at the moment, we are thinking AV over IP will be a higher priority than any other type of output cards.
Do you think 2110 is an optional card?
Yeah, I mean, again, on the AV over IP side, you have a variety of formats. As you know, Barco has endorsed IPMX
Right.
for last several years, and IPMX brings very unique things to the pro AV industry. And so, 2110, as you mentioned, is really an uncompressed video over IP or AV over IP format that's built by the same guys who build SDI. Well, they are now taking it further with IPMX, and so if you were to consider SDI over IP is the 2110 in layman's term, HDMI over IP is the IPMX, and Barco has endorsed IPMX. So as we go forward, we will continue to work towards building AV over IP input and output cards that supports 2110, of course, IPMX, and a few others that are out there.
Yeah, I like IPMX as well. If anybody that's watching this, if you haven't looked into IPMX, there's just Google it. There's a ton of information,
Yeah.
and it's a great format coming down the pipeline. And it's not something just for the future. It's out there right now.
Harry, so how about can you talk a little bit about destinations, aux, super auxes, super destinations? Is that nomenclature in that format going to continue on into VentMaster 10.0? And will the Encore 3 do auxes and super auxes in the traditional way, or is it like a sort of a new foundation that we're working on?
Yeah. Let's talk about destinations first, right? So Encore 3 has 8 4K 60 destinations. Now, we keep on saying it as 8 4K 60 destinations and not saying 80 megapixel, right? Because that's 78.6 is exactly the megapixel. So Encore 3 is really an output-driven system, meaning you could create a screen destination with multiple outputs that are spaced between each other for larger canvases. Encore 3 doesn't bound to canvases anymore. Encore 3 bounds to the actual outputs, right? So every single dest is kind of like super dest, right? Where you can have your AOIs and be positioned completely independently, and you can go beyond your typical canvas that you would be limited in E2, where Encore 3, there is no real limit to the canvas space. What you're limited to is the 8 4K 60 outputs. And again, there are 4096 wide 4K 60 outputs, right? When it comes to auxes, aux in Encore 3 are much, much more limited in compared to E2. Why? Well, because you have so much more powerful outputs. We wanted to give you real outputs with real layers that you can pretty much customize it to whatever you want to do customer facing. Yeah. So auxes are in Encore 3 are meant to be like an aux. It's something that you can take it down and send it to a recorder, or get your multi-viewer out of the box through an aux. And then when you need to switch full screen something to monitor something, you can switch now that aux between multi-viewer and full source. So again, auxes are quite simplified. There is no super auxes in Encore 3. And again, nomenclature-wise, in Encore 3, you have screens, and every single screen output is a 4K 60 equivalent, or 4K 60 is the capacity. You can combine them together for blended screen, larger LED screens, 8 4K 60 in any array that you want to have is also possible. But the nomenclature of super des, super aux is something we will go away from.
I mean, that makes sense, because you've got, like I said, you don't have the same you have very few restrictions, right, when it comes to destinations and your capabilities. So you don't need these auxes anymore, right? The destinations will do it all. I like that. See, do we have any other questions? I mean, I'm trying to be easy on the questions because there's a lot of card questions. I could be asking you card questions all day long. Users are very interested in specific cards.
Didn't tell them about the
But
URL.
if you want, if you guys want some more information, right, on the Encore 3 specifically, we've got a nice URL, the Encore 3, the number 3, right, theencore3.com. So you can go to theencore3.com. I think I've got,
and we're going to share that with Harry, so he can do whatever he needs to do. And there's the QR code up there for you. So we're trying to make it as easy as we can for you. So Harry, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we?
Yeah, I think one of the things I want to sort of clarify is the name, right? Encore 3.
Yeah, please.
Hey, this is where I get to put the picture of the box up. Here we. Oh no, the front.
Yeah,
there we go.
Go to the back. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
so you can refer to it as E3. You can refer to it as Encore 3. From Barco side, we want it to be named as Encore 3. And reason, it was an internal battle as well. Hey, should we call it E3? Should we call it Encore 3? And so on. And when you really look at this particular platform, it's a third generation Encore, right? So first Encore was in 2004. 2014 is the second Encore, called E2, and this is the third generation Encore. These three different platforms, they cater to similar needs, they solve similar problems, but the underlying technology is quite different, right? So even though it's going to do the same shows as E2 did, Encore 3, because of the underlying technology, it has so many pluses on some areas, and it's a bit different in compared to E2 in some other areas, right? So that's why we wanted to make this a third generation platform and not simply call it E3. However, as customers, as you lovers of Event Master platforms, if you want to call it E3, go for it. But we kindly ask you to call it Encore 3, if you may.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, Harry, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate all the input and everything. And again, an open invitation. If you want to do an open house here at Evolve, we're ready for you.
I'll take you on that for sure.
I'm sure I will volunteer. We'll bring in some of our viewers. We'll beta test as much as you need.
As much as you need. And again, we want to reinforce the URL. It's theencore3.com, or you can go to the QR code. Harry, thank you so much for spending your time with us. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about the Encore 3.
Thank you both, and thank you for all the listeners who joined us.
Sure thing.
Excellent.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.